Hello, everyone.
Hello, 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 hello.
We are live. So, what are we doing today?
Today, Chag Sameach, first of all. Today we're going to be making some cheesecake using cream cheese, which is the most obvious ingredient. I'm going to be making 2 fresh cheesecakes for you. Well, I'm going to be making the base and the actual cheese filling itself, which are always going to be the same regardless of what cheesecake you make. I'm going to show you 2 really cool things to do with some fruit. I've got some strawberries and some lovely fresh blueberries just from a market about stone's throw that direction. You can't see it, but it's very, very local. And we're going to show you 2 different ways of cooking them and 2 different ways of presenting them, and they're going to be delicious and a perfect bit of food to celebrate Shavuot.
That's so exciting. And how are you today, Ossie? What is new with you?
I'm quite
have you
all right.
been up to anything exciting cooking-wise?
I have been growing my hair over the past week. I think avid, astute viewers would know that it's this is like a month's progress. I'm quite happy with it. It was like shiny. It was shiny when I first shaved it off, but it's growing back quite nicely for ready when civilization gets back to normal and I have to get rid of put onto my serious haircut. Exactly. So been dealing with that. Other than that, it's been a pretty standard week, I'd say. Pretty standard lockdown week. But I'm looking forward to doing some cooking.
Amazing. So I'm looking forward to watching and commenting along. It's going to be really exciting. I guess we've got all the ingredients there. I mean, This might be putting you on the spot a bit. Have you ever made a vegan cheesecake? Would you know what a vegan cheesecake would look like?
I have made a vegan cheesecake. It's a bit more involved, and it's probably something I wouldn't be able to do in the amount of time that I can do a stream in, unless people are interested in doing a longer stream. You'd use a soft tofu. So when you blend that up, it almost turns into almost like a cream cheese texture, funnily enough. And you'd be able to make the base. You could use like coconut oil instead of butter for the base. You can also make like some really nice bases out of like dates and date and oat. I think if you blend that up together, it kind of almost becomes like a flapjacky texture. It's a really nice way of. It's not. I mean, it's vegan anyway if you use coconut oil, but it's a nice twist on doing it. So yes, you can make a vegan cheesecake. Absolutely. It takes a little bit longer, but it's just as delicious. But this is just a classic, good old-fashioned fresh cheesecake.
Yeah, sounds good. We just didn't want to alienate our vegan viewers too much, but I'm sure if you had a question that you wanted answering about that, I'm sure that Ossie would be happy to answer it while we do our usual cheesecake as well. So just a heads up. But as you can see at the bottom, we've got every ingredient that you'll need. There's not that many ingredients. It's quite simple, isn't it? So this is quite good for lockdown.
Very simple. I mean, so with cheesecake, there's 2 main types you get. You get the baked one and you get the fresh one. This one's going to be a fresh one. Baked one is more sort of like the New York style cheesecake that you might get, or Japanese style cheesecake, a baked. I much prefer a fresh one, which is the one we're going to make now because it's quicker and it's a lot more vibrant, I think, personally. And it's just a lot easier as well if you need something in a hurry. This is really a dish that you can just knock up. Well, we're going to do it over a stream because it's that easy. But it's really, and it's very forgiving. You don't have to be too precise with the measurements. You can kind of just eyeball it and chuck it all in the pan and then see what happens. And you'll generally be fine. So it's a good recipe if you're kind of building up your confidence with cooking. It's a really good one to just mess about with and see what works. Sweet. So I guess without further ado, back get started.
Yeah, let's go. That's great.
Nice. Do you want to switch over to the Aussie cam?
Yes, let's do it.
Lovely. Okay, so I've got everything set up here. I'm going to start off with not actually going for the cheesecake. Yeah, that doesn't take too long. I'm going to use these blueberries here, these lovely blueberries that I got just down the road. And I'm going to make a compote out of them. So compote is just when you cook them out a little bit. So I've got my blueberries in there. I've got a little bit of sugar. This is corn flour. I'll talk through that in a second. It's a thickening agent. Just need a little bit, not too much. And good bit of lemon juice, just a quarter of lemon will be fine. So compote is similar to a jam in terms of it is cooked fruit with sugar, which is what a jam is. But it's kind of like the simplified version of it. Jams are very technical. You have to boil them to a very specific temperature, and you have to check them, and you have to keep an eye over them, and you need to constantly look out for them and weigh everything out. A compote is very simple. Chuck some fruit in a pan with a bit of sugar and a bit of liquid, which I've gone for a bit of lemon juice. And then if we take it over to, bring it back to the main camera, please, Rosa. Sorry, it's very dynamic, isn't it? So I'm going to put it on the heat. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly bring it up to a simmer. And as it cooks, the juices that are in the fruit, in this blueberry, will come out. And that will be kind of the liquid you need. You might need just a splash of water. I think I will. But because it's got the corn flour in there, it's going to help thicken it up. And you'll end up with this really nice, what we call a compote, which is like almost like a sauce, a fruit sauce. That would be perfectly lovely as it is. You could just eat that straight from the bowl. It's delicious. But we're obviously going to put it through our cheesecake. But it needs to cook out, and we need to cool down before we can put it in our cheesecake. Otherwise, it would just make the whole cheesecake run everywhere because it's hot. So I'm just going to bring that up to the boil. And let that cook out. Keep an eye on it. But again, you don't need to be too careful of it. If it was a jam, what I'd say is put it on the boil and don't walk away at all. You have to keep your eyes on it the whole time, because you've got to be monitoring the temperature. This is a little bit more forgiving. This whole cheesecake recipe is a bit more forgiving. You can kind of keep an eye on it, but let it do its own thing for a bit at least. Right, so if we want to go back to the Aussie can,
yes,
I've got the two main things you need for cheesecake are double cream and cream cheese. So those are the two things for the filling. I've got that in a ratio of, that's 3 parts, 3 times the weight. Sorry, 3 parts cream cheese to 1 part double cream. What I'm going to do with double cream is I just want to whip it lightly. So I'll talk you through first before I make all the noise. I'm going to whip it lightly to just get a bit of air in there. That's going to kind of lighten up the cheesecake a little bit, not make it too dense, too heavy. It's just a nice way of making it a bit more dainty. We're also going to put in about 40 grams of sugar, a few tablespoons. Again, this is a very forgiving recipe. You don't need to be too precise with the measurements, so you can kind of put in that amount of sugar. And the final ingredient, and this is completely optional, but it, I think, makes the dish. This is a vanilla pod, which is a beautiful ingredient. Not many people have seen vanilla pods as they are. They're a wonderful ingredient, very fragrant, amazing flavor, completely different flavor to what you get from extract. And I just happen to have some on hand. So I am going to use that to flavor my cream cheese base. You, of course, don't have to put this in. It's quite an expensive ingredient. You can use vanilla extracts or vanilla paste, both delicious. I think the vanilla pod, if you can get a vanilla pod, do it, because I think it's absolutely lovely. At the moment, my compote is just coming up to the boil. And if you want to come back to there, I'm moving all around the kitchen at the moment. You can sort of see there's a lot of liquid has come out of those berries now. I'll be difficult to see. A lot of liquid's come out of them, and they're beginning to soften down a bit, which is exactly what you want. They should go nice and soft in a second.
They look delicious.
They're absolutely delicious. And yeah, so back to the, sorry, I was just keeping an eye on that. I was conscious of it.
We've got one comment. Hello, ready to rock and rumble, especially with the digestive crumble.
Oh, very nice.
A lovely rhyme. Amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah, so this cream has got the sugar, the double cream, and the vanilla pod. I just want to whip it lightly, which will do 2 things. 1, it will start to dissolve some of that sugar. And 2, it will just introduce a bit of air into the cream, which will fold through the cream cheese in a second, just to make it a bit lighter. And so you can really just easily scoop through with your spoon without feeling like you're going through loads of dense cream cheese. Oh, to work out more. Again, Just keeping an eye on my compote, not letting it burn or get too hot. Oh,
Very
yeah,
important.
look at that.
Oh, like it's got almost, all the juices.
It's gone almost like gelatinous now. You see all that pink juice that's come out?
Wow.
I'm going to add just a touch more water just because I don't want it this thick. But again, just back on the heat. Keep an eye on it. But don't baby it. You don't have to stand over it the whole time.
Amazing. Oh, it's quite noisy, that.
Yep, sorry, I do apologise. The whisk. it's the second loudest part of this recipe, actually. You might be able to take a guess.
Any advice for best whisking method, or?
So you always want to whisk like you're lifting up. You don't want to mix it around. That is mixing right there, what I'm doing. This is whisking, where you take it and you lift it up and bring it back down like that. So I'm lifting up the whisk, lifting it constantly like that. And that is the best way to introduce air into whatever you're whisking. There is a risk if you over whisk cream. Do you know what you get? You know what happens?
What happens? I don't know.
That is how you make butter. You will end up with butter if you over whisk cream. Which, to be fair, homemade butter is delicious, and I definitely recommend giving it a go. But it's not what we want for this recipe. So over here, let me just get that finished.
Oh, back we go.
Right, so that is just slightly whisked. Not majorly, but it just softens it up a little bit. You can see, you might be able to see, there's little flecks of black in there, the seeds, which are all the vanilla seeds, which you get from that vanilla pod. You'll notice I've also not thrown that away. I want to show you something really awesome you can do with that in a second. So don't throw that away if you've used it. I've only used half for now, but I'll show you what to do. So that's all done there. Can put that in there. I've got my cream cheese here that I'm just gonna, what I've done is I've taken this out of the fridge and I've just let it come up to room temperature, so it's a bit softer, a bit easier to work with.
Ooh.
And I want to fold this into my cream mixture. So all that is taking about a half to a third of it, plonking it in, and just gently lifting it up like a figure of 8 and folding it into the cream. You can actually be a bit more vigorous with the first few ones, but folding is a way of mixing two things together, but keeping all the air that you've just got into them. So you might use folding quite a lot in bakery, actually, especially when you're doing cakes. If you're folding in the flour, you never stir it in, you fold it in, because you want that flour to, you don't want to knock out any of the air you just put in. You spent energy and time putting in. So you fold that in, you don't mix it in. Especially with soufflés as well. Very important you fold, you don't mix.
Just before we started the stream, me and Ossie were having a conversation, weren't we, about what is the symbolism behind us eating cheesecake on Shavuot?
We were indeed, I remember it well.
Lovely. And it seems like there are a lot of different interpretations of why this might be.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
So if you have heard any rumors about why we eat cheesecake, then feel free to write them in the comments. One of the things I found out was that some people think that it derives from the fact that we talk about the land flowing with milk and honey, and that's why we have a dairy focus on Shavuot.
I've also got a competing theory, which is...
Okay, let's hear it.
It's absolutely delicious, and why wouldn't you want an excuse to eat it?
Now, I think that's a very important theory because, as we all know, a lot of our Jewish holidays are based around, well, they have all the symbolism is often based around food, yeah. So absolutely. That is very much a big reason is we do just get hungry, and cheesecake is very popular. Indeed, very much so.
Right, that compote, wow, smelling so fragrant. Nice kind of hit of the acidity of the berries. A really nice way of using up fruit. You don't have to use blueberries. You can use any kind of fruit. You can use any kind of berry. Make compote out of them. I just use blueberries because they give a nice color when they cook down. I'm also going to use strawberries for Another thing, which I'll show you, which doesn't involve cooking, but does involve you doing something to them rather than just keeping them as they are. So what I'm going to do now is that needs to cool down because that is way, 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 way too hot. Don't even put your finger in there because that is boiling sugar in there. That's hotter than boiling water. That will really, really burn you. So be careful in terms of don't stick your finger in to have a taste. What needs to happen now is that needs to cool down. So for the benefit of the stream, you don't have to do this at home, but for the benefit of the stream, I've just got a metal bowl that's been chilling in my freezer. And I'm going to pour that in there and just pop it in the freezer for now. That's only so I can do it super quickly. If I was doing this in a normal time frame, I would just leave it to cool a little bit on the side to get to like sort of room temperature, then put it in the fridge. But just for the benefit of the stream, I'm going to do it in the freezer. But of course, you don't have to if you don't want to, or if you're not able to. Beautiful. Okay, so I've got my blueberries cooked. I've got that cream, cheese, and double cream mixture mixed together with the vanilla and the sugar. So it's beautifully sweet and very fragrant with that vanilla. Quality control. Always give it a taste. It's just, it's such a, if you've ever had vanilla pod, it's such a different experience, eating experience to just using like vanilla extract or vanilla paste. It's a lot more fresh. It sounds dumb, but it tastes a lot more like vanilla. It really is just something, if you're able to, just try using a vanilla pod in your cooking, as opposed to vanilla paste or vanilla extract. I think it's a much nicer way. Now, I did say I was going to do something with that. So absolutely, if you ever use vanilla pods, the cardinal sin is throwing away the pod after you've cut into it. So in our kitchens, I've done it at home, and then we do it in professional kitchens as well. We always have a spare pot of sugar just lying about, a big tub, and every spare vanilla pod, just chuck it in there, pop the lid on.
Shake it.
Give it a good shake around. And the idea is you keep that in your cupboard, and every time you use a vanilla pod, you chuck it in, you keep on topping up the sugar, and you have the most amazing vanilla sugar. The little specks of vanilla go in there. As you keep it on, the fragrance and the aromas and the flavor compounds that are in that vanilla pod are absorbed by the sugar. So it tastes like vanilla. It's a fantastic way of using it up. Also reducing the waste because everything is being used up. We're not throwing away anything. And you can also just keep on topping it up with sugar as you use it. You can use it for anything really. If you make a cake, vanilla sugar is a fantastic thing to use because you don't need to then use any vanilla extract. You've got the vanilla in there. Or any kind of pancake, or some weird people like to put it in their coffees or teas. I'm a bit more ambivalent towards that, but you know. But don't throw it away is the point. Put it in some sugar. You've got the most amazing injection of flavor. It's wherever you use sugar, you've now got a vanilla flavor as well. Cool. So what I'm going to do now with this cream cheese mixture is I'm going fancy pants because I can. You absolutely don't need to use a piping bag, but I'm a fan of them. So what I'm going to do is fill half of the mixture up in a piping bag, and I'm going to leave the other half just in the bowl. So if you don't have a piping bag, I'll show you what to do with it. So you don't have to be fancy, but because I think a cheesecake, especially one of these, is so simple, it really helps to like have some nice presentation. So if you are, I always find that if you, the simpler the dish, and the more that you have to rely on the ingredients, the more important it is to really nail the presentation. So for me, I'm just going to put half of it in a piping bag, and I'm gonna place up two today anyway because I've got one with the strawberries and one with the blueberries. There we go, that's half in there. Push it down a bit. There we go, and just keep it in there for now. The other half I'm just going to keep in the bowl to one side because I'll show you what to do if you don't have a piping bag or you don't want to use one. And don't have to use that. It's absolutely fine. So that is the blueberry compote and the cheese part of the cheesecake done. We're going to move on to the buttery biscuit base, which is my favorite three combinations in the world.
Amazing.
So
that's a bit of a tongue twister.
Buttery biscuit base. You've got to have a buttery biscuit base with a cheesecake. Yeah, so I've got here some ginger nut biscuits. I prefer them for, I don't like dunking them in my tea at all. I don't like eating them on their own. But in a cheesecake, there is something about when you use them in a fresh cheesecake, especially the zingy gingeriness of them, the really acidic kind of lemony ginger flavor just works so well in a dish, which I want. I like the fresh cheesecake because it's a bit tart and it's a bit.
What do you have against biscuits and tea?
No, I love biscuits and tea. I just can't have ginger nut in my tea. No. Oh, no. Don't get the wrong impression here, right? Biscuits in my tea, great. Ginger nut in my tea, no, not happening.
Okay,
not happening.
Fine.
But in a cheesecake, ginger nut, fantastic. I prefer them to digestives in a cheesecake personally. But point is, any kind of biscuit, you can honestly use any kind of biscuit. Chocolate bourbon biscuits are really, really nice because they're obviously chocolatey. Custard creams. Custard cream is my all-time favorite biscuit. I'd happily use them in there as well, but I just wanted ginger nuts for this one. Digestives you can use. They're not my favorite, but you can use them. That's your cheesecake. You do what you want. But any biscuit you want. All you need to do, I've got a fresh, clean tea towel. Clean being the important word here. And I'm just going to wrap my biscuits in there. Now, I said earlier that this part's going to get loud, so I do apologise.
I'm scared. Shall I mute you?
It might be an idea. If you mute me, and then you can get the idea of it.
Okay.
All right. You might need to mute the main cam.
Okay. Looks very dramatic. Smashing the biscuits. This is very funny. This isn't what I imagined the official technique would have looked like. But I'm very excited to hear from Ossie afterwards as to why he's done it like that. Ooh, roll the biscuits. Amazing. Okay, Ossie. Don't take all your anger out on the biscuits. Poor biscuits.
Yeah, okay, cool. Am I back on? You can hear me?
Yeah.
Amazing. So this is a way of doing it.
Ooh, that looks cool.
The downside is you will mess up your tea towel, so it needs to go straight in the wash afterwards. The positive side, and I think the most important thing, or the most important reason I've used that, is because it's a lot more fun. The alternative is two alternatives. You either put it in a food processor, which does the work for you, but it's not that fun, I don't think. Or you can just crush them up by hand in a bowl, just like crush them between your hands like that. But again, I think this is a lot more fun. So that has to go into the wash. Give my hands a quick wash. And your buttery biscuit base obviously requires biscuits and butter. So that's just a bit of melted butter. Oh, the wind has blown my door open. So I've got all the windows open at the moment. So there's a lot of breeze coming through my house right now, which isn't ideal, but keeps me nice and cool. So that is melted butter, just straight melted butter. Again, if you're going vegan, you can use coconut oil, which will set up the same way if you put it in the fridge. So it doesn't have to be, or kind of margarine substitutes would be exactly the same. That just needs to get mixed around in there. And there is your buttery biscuit base, which is made up of butter and biscuits. Nothing much else to it. Very simple, very delicious. And that's going to line whatever container you're going to use for your cheesecake. I'm going to do little individual ones. So I'm just going to put them in little glasses because I think they look nice.
Ooh. That's lovely. We have a couple comments again from Alana saying that there are 7 harvest foods at this time of year. Wheat, like the biscuits.
Yep.
Amazing. And we've got as well, they've never made compote before, and is learning so much about alternative tea forming, whisking and mixing. This is epic. Well done,
Amazing,
Ossie.
amazing. Well, I'm happy that you guys are learning. It was actually one of our assessments. I had I was doing a pastry or patisserie module
really?
at uni, and one of the in like the marking scheme for our final dessert, we had to make a dish that amongst other things included some sort of fruit, as in it had to be can't just be. I have one chef at uni who's very, very adamant, very got very strong views that if you were just to put raw fruit on a dish as a garnish or on the side or anything, he just would reject it straight out. He'd be like, no, I don't want a raw piece of fruit.
He doesn't like raw fruit.
It does not that he doesn't mind it. It's just that if he's going to have fruit on his dish, he wants something to be done to it. He doesn't want just.
I had stewed apples the other day for the first time, which was really nice.
Lovely.
I didn't realize how amazing that was.
Fantastically. Apples are fantastic cooking fruit. So that's kind of what I'm going to attempt today. I mean, I've got the blueberries, which I cook. You could very easily, very much just put raw uncooked fruit in there, and it would be delicious. It'd be fantastic, especially if it's ripe fruit, if it's in season. Nothing wrong with just having it as it is. But not always are we making these at the most ideal time of the year. And also, it's just really nice to learn some different techniques. That's why I've gone with these two today. So I've got my bases in there. I've kept back some of the biscuit. I'm just going to put these in the fridge just for now, so they set up a little bit. The butter re-solidifies it and brings it back together. Not totally necessary, but I think it works better. I've got these strawberries here. These are, this is what fruit looks like, by the way. Fruit looks very much not exactly as you expect it. And I think a lot of people are put off by sort of fruit that might look like that or have weird shapes or not look like what a strawberry looks like. That is a strawberry, and it is absolutely delicious, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with eating fruit which is quote unquote misshapen. So keep an eye out for those. They often go for a little bit cheaper as well, but they're just as delicious, and they have just as much place on a plate or in your belly as the regular, supermarket food. So please don't be put off by how they look. They're absolutely gorgeous, taste wonderful. We are very much almost in the season, the peak season of British strawberries. So it is a perfect time of year, and over the next few weeks, perfect time of year to be eating strawberries, especially local British ones. So please make sure that you pick up a punnet or two just to have them on their own as well. They're absolutely delicious. It's definitely an experience.
Yeah, I think it's so important to try and buy fruit in season when possible, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because the air miles that some fruit does.
It makes sense.
Unreal.
It absolutely makes sense for air miles, and it also makes sense for taste as well. Fruit tastes best when it's in the season. So there's an environmental reason.
And it keeps you on your toes for making sure that you are aware of, just mixing up what you use based on what's available is also just a good skill.
Exactly. And you'll often find that the fruits that are in season, they're often the flavors that you have with them, like the dishes that you have with them, often match what the weather's like. You don't want, if you're in the middle of summer, you don't really want a really sort of heavy stewed plum crumble, like a hot dessert, which is lovely in the winter when plums are in season. It's lovely, but it's not really what you want. In a day like today, you don't want a really hot dessert. So kind of it's useful that way. It's the fruit's almost telling you how it wants to be cooked and what it wants to do to it. So make sure that you are buying stuff that's in season for the air miles, for the flavor, for the eating experience, and for the dishes that you want to eat at that time of year. So there is so many reasons to buy lovely fresh fruit which is in season. Right. So what I'm doing now is I'm just slicing these nice and thinly. I'm going to demonstrate with a few of them, but you can absolutely do this with as many as you want. There's a fantastic strawberries and cream, obviously, around this time of year. Fantastic combination. And I've got some cream in the fridge and I've got some strawberries there, which I'm going to save. This will be delicious later. what I'm going to do now is there's something called macerate the berries, which is a very funny sounding word.
Sounds very fancy.
Very fancy. Which is essentially almost marinating the fruit. You would sometimes, especially in like classical French preparations, you'd also add a bit of alcohol to this if you so desired. Obviously, I'm not going to do that today. It doesn't need it, but that is another thing that is quite often done. But I'm going to use our fantastic vanilla sugar that we just made. So you can, I don't know if it's showing on camera, but you can already kind of see there's kind of little black specks running through the vanilla already, through the sugar already, which are from the vanilla. So it's already, you need to smell it. You open the lid, the first thing you get is just a big waft of vanilla. It's absolutely glorious. So you can keep topping that up, keep using it. And I'm just going to add a few tablespoons or teaspoons even onto that. And what that's going to do is draw out a lot of the moisture. So that is a completely dry bowl of strawberries, right? There's just the strawberries and the sugar. We give that a few minutes. You will see, I can already feel it now. There's already liquid that is pouring out of that. So that sugar is drawing out moisture from those strawberries and turning it almost into a little sauce. So you're getting a lovely sort of strawberry syrup alongside the actual fresh strawberries, which is a fantastic way of preserving their lovely fresh flavor, but also just giving them a bit of moisture. So it's not just raw strawberries. So that's macerated berries.
Delicious.
You can already see there's liquid just pooling up at the bottom. So all the juice and the lovely flavor of the strawberries is getting concentrated in that syrup. It's a fantastic way of having them.
I feel like so much of this as well is like can be used for other dishes as well. Like absolutely.
I've
never experienced any of this before, so I'm like
it'll be that inside of pancakes. The strawberries inside of pancakes are absolutely amazing. It's a fantastic way of using them. Even as just a bowl of strawberries and cream, it's just the way it enhances it. You also don't need to use strawberries. You can use any kind of berry you want or any kind of fruit. Macerates, like it's just a technique. I want you to kind of look at this as more of a technique than a recipe. You notice today a lot of the things I've sort of just eyeballed. I have weighed stuff out, but not that precisely. I've kind of just chucked stuff together. Cheesecake's a really forgiving way of doing it, a really forgiving dish, and the accompaniments I've done with it are also really, really forgiving. So build up your confidence by doing these kinds of dishes because there's a lot of leeway. You don't have to get it perfect. It will still taste delicious. That's the wonderful thing about desserts. For most of them, at least, unless you get very technical, they're always going to taste delicious because they've always got sugar and fruit or chocolate or whatever. They're always going to taste delicious. So you can build up your confidence a lot with them, even if they don't look the prettiest or whatever. Like they're still delicious either way. No one's going to complain when they have a fresh bowl of strawberries in front of them. So
what's the next step?
The next step is construction. We're pretty much almost there.
Wow.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a clean now. Remember last week I was saying got to stay clean and on top of stuff. Stay on top of your washing up. Give yourself a nice ample room to do your work. Otherwise you're going to set yourself up for failure. I don't know, certainly some of the chefs I work with would happily shout me down quite a bit if I ever got too messy, and rightly so. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate with the piping bag what you can do with that. So I'm just preparing that now. I've snipped the end off. And I've just got a little star nozzle. No, you want to get, yeah, you're as you can. I've got a star nozzle, so it should give me just a nice shape as it comes out. And I'm going to, got to get my blueberries. I forgot about them. Of course, my blueberries. Fantastic. So they have cooled down completely. They are about room temperature at the moment because they've been in the freezer. So they've done it quickly. But you kind of almost get this gloop, for lack of a better word, of like really concentrated blueberry flavor. You feel this, almost like this sauce that's coating it around. The corn flour has just thickened it up a little bit. Absolutely delicious. Fantastic way of eating it. So use that technique for any kind of berry because it's a delicious way of eating it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do one with the blueberry and then one with the strawberry. just to show off different ways you can do it. Again, this is more of a technique than a recipe. So play around with them. Use whatever's fresh to you. You can use cherries. Cherries are a fantastic way. Compote is a very fantastic way of cooking them. Use whatever fruit and is seasonal and close to you as well. It's a really good way of showcasing what's in season. This is where you can get a little bit fancy. I kind of like, with my cheesecake, a little bit of everything in each bite. So I want to kind of layer this up a little bit unevenly. Doesn't need to be perfect. That's the other thing with fruit as well, is that it's, you know, fruit is not perfect. It doesn't come in, doesn't always come in, which does it come a little bit? It doesn't always come in like perfect little shapes and sizes. Like it's you can kind of let it do its own thing. Don't worry too much.
Question.
Yes,
what is your favorite compote? My
favorite compote. Oh, whatever is seasonal, because you can really showcase whatever's to hand. So if you've got if cherries, if they're in season, I mean rhubarb's in season at the moment. Beautiful rhubarb. Rhubarb in a cheesecake, that you'd have to cook out, so you'd make that into a compote. Rhubarb is delicious. Yeah, whatever season. That's a tricky question, because it's that's like asking me what my favorite fruit is. Like I don't know. It's just whatever's to hand. My favorite fruit is the one that I'm eating at that moment, you know. So yeah, it's an excellent question. My top tip would just be to play around with it, experiment.
Wow.
And you can get a little bit fancy-pantsy with the piping bag. You don't have to. It's a cheesecake. Like it's a very humble dessert. I think you don't need to get too fancy-pantsy with it. You can if you want to, but don't have to. That is my piping bag one done. And I'm going to break the cardinal sin that my chef told me not to, but he's not here, so what's he going to do about it? Nice fresh blueberry on top, just to reinforce that this is indeed blueberry. So that's one. And you can see now there's this syrup at the bottom of, I don't know, is that a good angle? There's the syrup that's collecting at the bottom of the strawberries. I can actually get a teaspoon out of it now. That is beautiful, beautiful juice, just concentrated flavor there. This is as much as I can get on there at the moment, but that was just concentrated strawberry flavor. So if you don't have a piping bag and you kind of just want to get a bit rough and ready with it, you absolutely can. We'll go for a bit of cream cheese first. Alternate it a bit. Don't be afraid to use your hands.
Wow. Josh wants to know, how do you spell compote? Did he do it right?
That is bang on. Well done, Josh.
Yay!
It's also a good way of preserving fruits as well. I mean, not so much these days, but traditionally you use it to make them last a few more days before refrigeration and before you had a chance to preserve them any other way. It's a really good way because sugar is a very good preservative. So I'm just gonna spoon those on top. Again, cheesecake, you can be very rustic and rough and ready. Don't need to be too perfect. It's delicious. And good drizzle of that syrup, if I can get some. Just on top there. That's just concentrated strawberry flavor. Absolutely delicious. I've also got here, again, entirely optional and entirely just because I could. I have got some freeze-dried strawberry powder, completely unnecessary. But
you're so extra.
Why not?
Wow.
Just gives it a little bit of flavor and a beautiful color as well. Beautiful bright pink color. It's a lovely way to finish that dish.
What does it taste like?
It tastes like strawberries. It's quite bizarre, but it's yeah, it's literally just like eating a strawberry but in powder form. Very bizarre, but delicious.
And we've got a comment from my auntie saying they look so yummy. So there you go. Thank you, Debbie. They do indeed.
The first bite is always with the eye, so make sure I've got a completely unnecessary sprig of mint.
Mint, amazing.
Just because, why not? Completely unnecessary, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's 2 cheesecakes. Wow.
Zoom in on that.
Clean up the glass. Whoop. 2 cheesecakes there. No shirt well.
Wow, that looks amazing.
Using cooked and raw fruit, but the idea is the technique of the cream cheese mixture and of the fruit and the biscuit base, and really personalize it yourself. So don't just stick to what I've done. Try them out with different fruits, different flavors. You can add spice, like cinnamon's a lovely way of doing it. Cinnamon and apple and cheesecake's fantastic. And you can add chocolate if you want to go that route. Peaches when they come into season, well, it's almost that season now, but peaches are fantastic again. So really just play around with it and have a go, and really put your creativity into it, into the presentation, into the flavors. It's really up to you. It's a very, very good technique for building up your confidence in this kind of thing. So please give it a go and let us know how you get on.
That is amazing. It looks so good. Josh wants to know if Ossie has inspired me to try cooking. I've actually done a lot of cooking. I've had a couple of cooking nightmares, as we know. But there's also been some incredible moments, like last week with all the baking. So yeah, it's been really fun watching that. And we will soon have the professional photos that Ossie will take as well. So I'll post those for everyone to see. And if anyone wants the recipe, if you didn't quite follow, then I'm sure just message and we can send you it. Looks incredible.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Please just give it a go, because it's such a, of all the recipes that I can think of, it's probably the easiest kind of dessert recipe. And it's really worth trying, and just getting in the kitchen, just having a go at it, even if it doesn't work out perfectly, it's still such a good way of learning. And there's so many different techniques and different flavors. I can't recommend it enough. Just if you have the opportunity to get in your kitchen and just start cooking.
Yeah, and it's a happy Shavuot, Chag Sameach to everyone
as well,
to everyone, which is so nice. Yeah, as you can see below. And also we've got, Ossie's got a brand new website,
that's my
which
website.
Is really cool.
Thanks. That's got all my portfolio and stuff. So if anyone wants to employ a chef who's just recently graduated, then let me know. But check it out if you want to. It's got a few different inspiration stuff if you want to have a go at cooking, that kind of thing. So please do check it out. But yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Really amazing.
Thanks to everyone. Have a go at the cheesecakes. Let me know how you get on, and try out different things, and just get in the kitchen, get cooking, because there's not a lot else to do at the moment, is there? So yeah.
For our 18 plus members of the movement as well, Ossie will be doing another one on Sunday, which if you send me LJY message on Facebook, then you can find out more about that, which is exciting. And tomorrow we will be going live for Rua, and we'll have a couple special guests who have never led Rua on our LJY live stream before, so that should be really fun. That's at 3 p.m. tomorrow, so be sure to join for that if you can. And yeah, I think hopefully everyone's really enjoyed that. If you have any questions, if you go to make this at a later date, just comment them and I will be sure to be in touch with Ossie to pass them on.
Fantastic.
Thank you so
Cheers, guys.
much.
See you around. Stay safe, stay well. Have a good one. Chag Sameach.
Bye.
Bye.